muffins. Welcome back to channel. Subscriber request for a lot of tanks. I've already done them on some of these, but this is the VK45.02B. I do have a tips and tricks playlist. If you're struggling with a tank or aspect of the game, shoot over there. Hopefully there's a video I've made that can help you guys out. So going right into the VK. This tank, very capable, well armored. You definitely, when playing a heavy tank, have to understand the profile. I highly recommend downloading the app, Armor Inspector, taking a look at the penetration values of what other tanks are capable of when looking at this thing and how you should be positioning it. So right off the bat, looking at the VK is a heavy tank. So the prime position for this tank is right up on the front lines. You have to know how to side scrape. You have to know how to really be in those effective positions and supporting your team in a frontline position. So here I'm paying attention to where my team is. I notice a lot of them are off to the left, which is why I'm not pushing really hard off to the right. I'm so much alone. I'm going a little bit more up in the center here to try to stay within view range of my teammates. If you've watched any of my tips and tricks videos, I do recommend this. I recommend being within view range of your team and then vice versa, so you can support each other. If I were to go completely rogue over on the right hand side, I could get overrun, and I already spotted a couple guys over here. Their team's a little spread out. And with even a good armored vehicle like the VK, I am fighting higher tiers, which I am being a little bit more conscientious and careful of. Higher tiers typically have higher penetration values, but I'm also using a lot of the landscape to protect myself. I'm being very conscientious of where the enemy is, where my team is. I notice we still don't have a couple destroyers, which my guess, there they are. Looks like the 183 is right there. There's another one. There was a box or something that got blown up, so I'm guessing the other one is maybe, yep, and right there. So we detected both of them. Being very conscientious of, I do what's also called tank counting. So I noticed we had 5 detected over on the left. There was still 2 that weren't detected, and I had figured, since they were the tank destroyers, that they were far back in the map. Now I'm staying here in this position. I'm side scraping. This is actually very healthy for me right now, because if I push too far up on where this FE-183 and this Jagdtiger are, if I get too aggressive, I can end up putting myself in a crossfire, exposing a lot of the weak sides of my tanks to the enemy, which is definitely not good. Now, tank destroyers typically have some of the best penetration values here, so I'm highly trying to use the side scraping ability, and really just trying to peek out when I have that shell just about reloaded so I can snap that shot off. And even here, just turning my turret, like I had mentioned, being very conscientious of where the enemy is, because I know that FV, now that was just unlucky. That FV, now he's pulling out and trying to get a side shot on my turret. He's trying to pay attention. So I'm not really ever losing sight of what's going on around me, where my team is, really trying to do what I can. Now, a lot of the enemy is over here on the left side. Our team, unfortunately, is just falling apart. And honestly, I'm really trying to just do what we can. With using the VK, like I had said, even though you've got a good armor profile, it's very, very important to still use the landscape for as much protection as you possibly can. So here, I mean, we're kind of at a loss here. I guess I could have pushed up and been... I mean, we're already kind of looking down on the numbers right now. We're able to get a couple kills. I got this IS-4 coming up behind. I'm trying to decide whether to help the bat chat or this E3 kind of far away. I see that WZ-113. He's got way better DPM than I do. Honestly, I'm just in a very, very bad spot here. My bat chat is not really in a good spot against that 113. So, honestly, yeah, at this point, there's really not a lot, but in some of the key takeaways, even from this, I was still able to deal out and do at least my part. You're always going to be on teams that fall apart or don't do their role or camp or whatever the situation may be, or just get deleted within the first minute or two of the game. But I put these games in here just to be real. I just jump in, play a couple games, see what happens. And you can see, even in a game that just absolutely sucks, you can still do your part. I think we still managed to do about over 2,000 damage. And if you're doing that, you're doing your part. It doesn't mean you necessarily suck or whatever. I think, there's maybe a couple things we could have done differently, but now I do have a second replay here, kind of emphasizing a little bit more on what we are touching on. So number one is the heavy tank. You'll notice I'm trying to also go with my team. I'm trying to go in areas that are a little bit more flatter because the VK doesn't have a lot of gun depression, and you do have a really good side scraping ability. You don't want to get yourself too out in the open against mediums or by yourself, because you can get circled of death quite easily in this thing. So in a town setting or on flatter ground, areas you can side scrape, can really be helpful for your team, and also can really help put you in a good position as well. So going up, once again, trying to move up. That leopard's doing his job as a medium tank, trying to quickly get to a position to spot. So he did spot me. Luckily, we didn't get a shot. Here, as I just about come around the corner, I get a little greedy. I should have used my third-person view there. That was actually my fault. I quickly came around that corner. I should have used my third-person view to see where he was aiming, and I could have side-scraped to protect myself from getting shot right there. So bad move on my part. Able to kind of put a shot right back into him. So I'm trying to stay really close to the buildings. Now this T-54, I know doesn't have good penetration values, but that T-30 definitely does. And I realize I'm in a very bad spot here. And when you're in a very bad spot, like I was able to just bounce right there, it really helps to wiggle that armor back and forth as much as you can. Try to angle as much as you can. And even right here, I'm trying to back up as best of my ability, hoping to bounce around. Didn't. But now I'm going back into a position to utilize the landscape, get myself behind this building as much as possible, and now I'm going back into that side scraping manner, which is very important. Now we do have the support from the M103, so I am trying to help and push up a little bit with him. So continually just thinking in ways of fulfilling that role as a heavy, being on the front line, supporting my team as much as I can, and paying attention, looking around corners, being able to get these snapshots, so staying very close to the buildings. So if I do need to back up, these guys just, they keep, I think they might be using APCR. They're definitely, which honestly, tier 10s, that's why it's always good to be a little bit more conscientious or conservative, just because, like I said, the tier 10 tanks have better penetration values. And then this leopard, my game just lagged out before I could really turn my tank. But even trying to turn my tank against to where enemies are pointing their cannons at and trying to get you really helps. So once again, some takeaways. Download the Armor Inspector. You have to understand how your armor works as a heavy tank. Be on the front lines. You're a heavy tank. That's where you should be. Paying attention to the map, where your team is, and stay within view range of where your team is. That'll definitely help you out. So Muffin here, stay cool and keep tanking.